What's up, everybody? This is Wreak Havoc welcoming you back to the Havoc Hour on this nice sunny Tuesday. Hope everybody is doing well and staying safe. Still in month two of Corona Mania, but word is that within the next week or so, some states should be opening back up. Hopefully, they can do that safely and without too much risk, and we can get back to a little bit of normalcy here soon. But in the meantime, I have got a whole lot to cover today, so I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to kick things off here with the story of the weekend, one of them anyway, the NFL draft. Another 256 players selected out of the college ranks, going on to live their NFL dreams. Uh, was very unprecedented because, of course, given the certain circumstances, we weren't able to have the draft in Vegas first time ever, which would have been really cool. Roger Goodell was making picks from his basement on the couch, and a simulcast with all different players in their homes, analysts on TV, the coaches, execs, everything like that. But ultimately, it was the one of the most watched drafts of all time. I think it was the most. So, you take victories where you can get them. But all in all, uh, very interesting draft to say the least. I'm gonna go over my list of teams that did well, that impressed in the draft, that did their thing, got done, you know, a lot of pieces together for teams that are trying to win, that are trying to win now, and they're trying to build for the future. And then I'm gonna go over a couple teams that really kind of wet the bed and didn't really do too much. So, first and foremost, first team I thought really did big was the Ravens. Now, the first pick was Patrick Queen out of LSU, linebacker. Uh, that's that's a position that they are adept at replacing year after year, and I think Patrick Queen is right up there at the top easily. He's explosive, he's fast, he plays through contact, and then their Raven zone scheme. This is where a little questions come in. Their zone scheme requires linebackers to make adjustments on the fly. So that's one thing that's been a question because he's only been starting for 1 year. I think he started week 4 at LSU last year, and he has a little trouble with his awareness when wide receivers get into his zone. But like I said, he's a fast guy. He's physical. He plays up. He'll have some help too. As Malik Harrison out of Ohio State and Jason Madubuike out of Texas Tech, Texas A&M. Yeah, so they really shored up that position. Some fast guys up front, and with what they already have now, along with Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe, the free agent signings they got this year, the defense, is going to look real formidable as they have the last couple years anyway. So this just adds to it. Then on the offensive side of the ball, you look at it. J.K. Dobbins, my main man from Ohio State. This just made everyone a whole lot more stressed when they got to play the Ravens because they already had a top rushing attack in the league, second only to Derrick Henry last year. With Mark Ingram and Lamar Jackson. But now you add J.K. Dobbins, this man is second all time in Ohio State for the running back position. He had 2,003 rushing yards, broke Eddie George's single season rushing record. And this adds a whole nother dimension. Now Mark Ingram is hard nosed, run through tackles. He's got quickness, but it's a physical running. With J.K. Dobbins, you're getting the speed, the burst, the open field, cuts in the open field. He works well with the RPOs, and pass protection is solid. He only allowed 4 pressures in Ohio State last season. You know what I'm saying? And he's a great catching option out of the backfield, most definitely. And he runs hard downhill, so that's gonna be another 3-headed dragon in the backfield for Baltimore. And then they didn't get quite what they needed to at receiver, but they did get Devin Duvernay out of Texas. He's good in the slot. He makes a lot of good runs after the catch. So, all those things put together, I think the Ravens had a real solid draft. I expect to see them back in the playoffs, making a pretty decent run. It all really depends on how well Lamar Jackson develops with his accuracy. But, with these pieces in place, combined with what they already have, I think they're poised to make another run next year. The next team, most definitely the Bengals. I got to give it to them, for a team that's been in purgatory for so many years. I think it's about time they finally kind of reach into a new place, a new level within the division. Obviously, it was no secret from the day the college football season ended, they were going to get Joe Burrow, out of LSU. And, this guy is the total package. He emerged as the best quarterback in the league or in college football in the nation. The runaway Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, set the record in NCAA for touchdowns with 60 to just 6 interceptions. I mean, that alone is mind blowing in itself. But the guy's solid. He makes every throw. His reads, he sees the entire field better than most of the quarterbacks you're taking right now. You know what I'm saying? His poise in the pocket, he's the most, probably more comfortable than anybody else that we've looked at in this draft. The guy sits back, he's comfortable. He gets into a groove really quickly. He's confident. His movement is solid. I mean, there's not a whole lot more you can ask for in a franchise quarterback. So Cincinnati locks him up officially with number one. Then in the second round, right off the bat, they went and got T. Higgins out of Clemson. Now, this guy has a lot of the same characteristics as A.J. Green. He's 6'4", he's wide, got the wide frame with that ability to high point the ball, go up and go get it, which is a lot of what A.J. Green does. And I think it was more important for them to kind of emulate that when you have a lot of injury concerns where A.J. Green is concerned. Him, Tyler Boyd, having them, concerned about whether or not they'll be on the field, at least now you have a guy that's, closely resembled your best playmaker out there. Logan Wilson, Akeem Gaither out of Wyoming and Appalachian State, respectively. Two guys in pass coverage that, they really need help with back there if they can develop properly. But, I think that's the start of a bit of an overhaul. They also drafted a few linemen to beef up the O-line there to protect Burrow. So this could look like a whole different team. That's the most common thing I've heard going out of the draft here is that Cincinnati is going to look like a real different team. So I think, if nothing else, this isn't, a team that's going to turn around and run through everybody next season. I don't expect that. But I would think that next season they'll be definitely running as closely as possible to the Ravens for that division title. I know we're not going to count the Steelers out because, they at one point were 8-5 last season with a third-string quarterback. But I think I saw more potential with what Cincinnati has than what the Steelers have. This could all be a wash. Next season they could still be bad, and even if Burrow does good. But, I like to think that, the youth movement going on in Cincy, they're a cheap team. They don't like to spend money. We know that, just like Green Bay. But I think this is a year, could be a turning point. I'll say could be. I won't say definitely will be, but it could be. The next team, and I kind of hesitate to say this one, but it's true. I can't deny the facts. The Cowboys. What more do you need? CeeDee Lamb added to that receiving core. Dak Prescott's weapons as follows: Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, now CeeDee Lamb, Blake Jarwin. You got Ezekiel Elliott right next to you in the backfield there. What more do you need as a quarterback to have a field day with these teams out here? Dak Prescott, I've said this already before on the last couple shows, he's improving every single season. And now you're adding another weapon, CD. That's a dynamic pass catcher. This guy makes every kind of catch, explosive when he gets the ball in his hands. He's versatile. He can play inside and outside. He works best when lined up in a slot, which works just fine for them because they lost, I can't think of his name. Randall Cobb. There we go. He lost Randall Cobb to free agency. He went to Houston. So now you just insert CD right into that spot there. Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper on the outside, although Amari Cooper works better inside. Now you can get real creative about it. That's going to cause a whole lot of world more issues for teams in that division right now. I think the only questions that you have about him is, he's more of an athlete than he is of a polished route runner. There's talks, a lot of the analysts have said that, his route running needs some work. And he doesn't have that, top end speed that just blows the doors off. But the biggest comparison that people keep giving him is that of DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, for my money, is the best receiver in football. I don't care who you throw out. Antonio Brown, Julio, OBJ. I'm taking DeAndre over all of them because he does not drop a pass. And his route running is second to, I don't think, any. And so if this is who we're comparing this guy CD Lamb to, you got a solid right there. So, obviously the Eagles are going to be right in step with them for that division crown. We never see any repeat winners in the NFC East. It's a thing. They just keep shuffling year after year. But, with the Giants and Redskins still in the middle of their rebuilding phases, I expect the Cowboys, with all of this that they have, I'm sorry, I'm not even done here. On the defensive side, you got Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama. This was major because after you lost Byron Jones to Miami, you need a guy that's going to step in there and, that's going to seal up that number one slot. And, this guy is the perfect, pick you could have gotten. I don't think they expected to get him, but, he's got all the intangibles. This is a long arm guy that's physical, a lot like Antonio Cromartie back in the day. He specializes in that bump and run coverage right up and close with them. He's patient. His footwork is crisp. And, in that scheme with Mike Nolan that he runs with a lot of blitzes and stuff, it leaves a lot of openings for press coverage on the outside, which is his bread and butter. So, this right here, put that together. And again, I shudder to think, but I can see the Cowboys winning the NFC East this year, most definitely. Like I said, the Eagles will be right there with them. It's always a toss-up between the two of them, but if you're just going from process of elimination, the fact that the Eagles won the division last year, that's a given right there. But you just look at this draft in itself, plus everything the Cowboys have already. If they would just pay Dak Prescott, and I don't got time to get into that debate right now, but, I said it numerous times, the man needs to get paid. Because if you give him all this, if Dak Prescott wins the Super Bowl this next coming season, I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying if for some miracle, if something occurs in the universe that the Cowboys make it to the Super Bowl next season and Dak Prescott does not get paid, I think some injunctions need to be filed, some grievances, everything, because let me just not. Cowboys, I got them winning the division next year. That's how good this draft was. Moving on. Next up, this one's going to be quick. I got the Chiefs. Simply from one name and one name only. Their first round pick, Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU. Simply put, this just gave Patrick Mahomes another weapon. The man just won a Super Bowl. He was the Super Bowl MVP. Now he's got a guy at the running back position. They already had Damian Williams and everything, and I believe LaShawn McCoy's coming back as well. But this is a guy in Edwards-Helaire. He creates space as a runner. He's so versatile in his lateral ability and everything, or agility. I'm sorry, not ability, agility to getting out in the open space, creating his seams and everything like that. And even more so, he's a major weapon coming out of the backfield. In the passing game, he can line up on the outside. And when you already have Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, and Travis Kelce, you're going to give this guy another weapon that can line up on the outside, catch passes out of the backfield. And, oh, by the way, when you hand him off the ball, he's going to break off about 40 or 50 on you easy. That's all I need to say about this pick, easily. Without question, I would say if nothing else, they're going to be right back into the playoffs, making a potential Super Bowl run again. Uh, I only stopped just short of saying repeating because, you never know what could happen down the stretch, what teams can turn it around when it comes down to it in the home stretch. But, just that alone gives them the edge. They didn't have a whole lot of picks, but where it matters, they improved. The rich keep getting richer. That is absolute madness. Uh, Now, my next team, without question, the Miami Dolphins, and that pains me to say as a Jets fan, but they were the bold ones that went out on the limb and said, "Hey, we'll take Tua Tagovailoa if nobody else wants to take that risk." They picked that number 5. Obviously, the biggest talk has been his health. The hip injury last season, the ankle before that. All the talk was, well, what does Miami do when they get to number 5, when they get to pick? Because obviously we know Burrow's out of the question. But there's still, Justin Herbert, there's Jordan Love, and there's Tua. The top guys that you would be talking about here. And I think, Miami didn't want to be deterred whatsoever. They knew who they wanted, and it was just a matter of, how he was going to look. And it's kind of gotten worse in terms of trying to find out where he is health-wise because of the whole pandemic situation. Guys can't do physicals and you can't meet with teams and everything like that. So he had to do a home workout that he filmed and sent to them. And, that had to be their benchmark essentially. But, you just look at this guy in the last couple seasons. He made sure that Alabama didn't miss a single mark after Jalen Hurts was first demoted and then went off to transfer to Oklahoma. He didn't miss a dime at all. He didn't miss a moment. This guy stepped in during the national championship game. Jalen Hurts was playing a little iffy. They pulled him and put Tua in the game, and they won the championship. And then since that time, they've been to 2 straight national championships. And, I'm sorry, they went to the national championship the following year. They didn't pull it off because of Clemson, but then this year they were poised to make another run in the college football playoff until he got hurt. Obviously, that made it difficult with LSU already bearing down their necks and running through everyone else in the SEC. That threw a damper in their plans, but ultimately, when you look at Tua, the guy is deadly accurate. He throws a perfect spiral. I don't know anybody else that does that. His scrambling, the mobility, moving around in the pocket. He sees the field well. He's got great decision making. You hear plenty of people say that about him. The experts, he makes the right plays, the right looks, and the right reads. So, if he's healthy, if he is good to go, then there's no reason why I'd say maybe week 4, week 5, you throw him the starting job because, let's be honest, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he is a 50-50 guy. One day it's Fitzmagic, the other day it's Fitztragic. You don't know what you're going to get from him. And Josh Rosen is starting to look like a bust. So in all reality, it's not going to take long for them to start Tua if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, he could be sitting for the majority of the season. But that can only benefit him because now he gets to sit back and watch and, kind of get more acclimated with the offense going forward. But he's the guy, no question. That's who they're sticking with now. And then you got a whole bunch of linemen to help him out there. Austin Jackson out of UFC was a solid pickup. Robert Hunt out of Louisiana. And then they got Eric Flowers from the Giants. Now, he didn't really work out with the Giants, but he was a first-round pick. They saw something in him. And I think maybe a new, fresh start would be good for him. We'll see how that works out. But, meshing all these guys together, that should create enough of a foundation for them to work with. And if he, like I said, if he is healthy enough to get going, I don't see any reason why they can't contend in the AFC East. Defensively, they got Noah Embi- Mbinogin out of Auburn at corner. I don't know half these guys' names. These African dudes is something else, man. But that's an interesting pair because now you have him alongside Byron Jones, who you got from Dallas. And, in the SEC, it's all about that speed and coverability. So pairing these two guys up is interesting. And Brandon Jones out of Texas, too, at safety. You're kind of remodeling the entire team almost. I think the only thing they didn't really address there was, at receiver. And, I mean, they still got plenty of playmakers over there. So, you know, like I said, I think they can make a run in the division, which I hope not as a Jets fan, but, it looks good so far. But my last team on this list here is the Minnesota Vikings. They, I think, had the most picks in the draft. If I'm looking at this right, I think, let's see, they had 15 picks in the draft. Out of those 15 picks, right off the bat, their first one was Justin Jefferson. I don't need to say no more than this. If you haven't seen his tape from the college football playoff, go watch it right now. Pause this, turn it off, go look up YouTube and look at Justin Jefferson's plays, highlights from the college football playoffs, and that's all you need to know. This guy right here, while he's not as explosive as a Stephon Diggs, I mean, I've heard it from plenty of guys saying he could be a complete upgrade from Stephon because he's a slot guy. You know what I'm saying? But he's got the ability to beat man coverage. What's his name? Adam Thielen. There we go. Adam Thielen, the number one guy for Minnesota now. He was asked, earlier about, his thoughts on the pick, and he said, well, damn, watch this guy play, last season at LSU, and just the way he beats this guy, from outside the slot. He can break tackles out in the open field. This could be one of the steals in the draft. And I'm kind of shocked that he fell so deep in the end of the draft because, when you talked about the top receivers, he was constantly the name that was left out. And I'm sitting up here thinking, man, God forbid, he falls out of the first round. But if he does, that's somebody's mistake, most definitely. But that's big for them. And then this guy, Jeff Gladney, out of TCU at corner. This guy has played 1,487 snaps on defense. He's got 49 incompletions, which is the most contested targets in college football, period, since 2018. So to say this guy was a bit underrated is a bit of an understatement. And we're talking, this guy has played against the likes of C.D. Lamb, Devin Duvernay, Denzel Mims, who the Jets got. I'm happy about that. This is a guy that's battle tested. So for him to be going up to the NFC North now, where he's going to face the likes of, Devontae Adams and Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, that's going to be a nice litmus test. It's going to be something that, a challenge that he gets to go up to that I think he should be knocking down pretty simply. Well, not simply, but definitely should be up for it. And this pick, the last pick here, it's iffy because there wasn't a lot of talk about this guy. But I watched him because, my Ohio State Buckeyes are in the Big Ten, so you got to see Michigan State twice a year. Kenny Willekes at linebacker or D-end. Last season, he was coming off of a broken leg. He totaled 78 tackles. 15 of those, or 15 and a half, were for a loss, and 10 of them were sacks. Now, his total college career stats don't measure up to being, all time great or something eye popping. They knew it was expected that he was going to drop pretty far in terms of his draft status, but this guy is a pick. You can't ignore that definitely because with the Minnesota Vikings, you look at Anthony Barr and that front seven that includes Daniil Hunter and everybody. To add this kind of depth, I think him sitting behind the starters and everything like that, watching them play, and getting involved in this defense with Mike Zimmer, this is something that could be it'd be the worst oversight for some of these teams because you'll look at it and say, man, if I could have taken this guy, taken a flyer on him, who knows? But I think that's what this is most definitely because, um, without a doubt, he's not starter quality right away, but give him a year, give him half a year. Watch what this kid does. I'm telling you right now. I hate to say that because Michigan State was a thorn in the side for me personally, but can't not deny at all that this guy's got the talent. But I think they're going to the playoffs next year, no question in mind. Green Bay didn't do enough, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But I think no question they'll be back in the playoffs. But honorable mention for the teams that did pretty well, I think. First and foremost, the Raiders. They came out swinging. They pulled out all the stops with their picks, trying to get playmakers around Derek Carr in the offense. Went and got Henry Ruggs, the fastest receiver in the draft, running a 4.2 with lightning fast speed. I'm actually kind of shocked he went ahead of Jerry Jeudy, but that's the way it falls. They added a lot of receivers, a whole bunch of guys. But that to retool that offense, it was very important. The Broncos went and got Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler out of Penn State. That alone right there reshapes this offense most definitely because you had a Courtland Sutton already, and Drew Lock coming in his second year, he was impressive coming down the stretch last season. So now you just stockpiled a whole bunch of weapons around this guy. That's going to be really major for him. And they got a nice few picks on defense as well. The Colts, most definitely, they were sneaky like they usually are. They don't make the biggest splashes, but they make the sneaky ones. First and foremost, Michael Pittman Jr. Really, I think he was spotlighted a lot, but not enough, not as much as he should have been, because he's not that guy, that speedster, that breakaway guy, but he's a possession receiver that is useful in the type of offense that Frank Reich wants to run. You already have T.Y. Hilton out wide as the top guy. He's going to take the top off the defense. So Michael Pittman is that guy that can find his spot, his areas in the middle of the field. So that was really big. And then, of course, Jonathan Love. I mean, this guy is one of the big... He could be the next Ezekiel Elliott, without question. I mean, he was a hard pick to be the Heisman early on, along with Tua before Joe Burrow annihilated the field. But he's the every down back. You have a Marlon Mack, Naeem Hines as well for third down responsibilities. But, Jonathan, this guy, most definitely, Jonathan Taylor, there we go. He's definitely an every down back, without question. And it helps that you have other guys in rotation because he has totaled about almost 1,000 carries in his time in Wisconsin. So a lot of that mileage on him is really going to be a factor, something you have to watch out for. But if you got guys in rotation, you can give him a break on third down in crucial situations, then it's all the better for him. And last but not least, of course, this is not biased. I'm being honest here because I had to change my position on this. My New York Jets. I was critical initially after night one because I wasn't thrilled with them going with Mekhi Becton. But a couple things here. Number one, you look at the size of this man. If you look at some of his tape, Mekhi Becton, you look him up right now. The guy is a house. He's massive. I mean, and not just that, he's athletic and aggressive with his blocking. I mean, he's mowing guys down left and right. There's some people I watched in the draft later that night that said that the Giants should have taken him, or the Tampa Bay should have picked him up. You know, teams that really need to shore up their own line, like that's the guy that you should have picked over the likes of Andrew Thomas out of Georgia or Isaiah Wilson. So when I look at it from that perspective, you know, Joe Douglas, the GM, has really completely reformed the offensive line. It was really a sore point for not just last season, but the last couple seasons. So, you know, when you got a guy like Sam Darnold who is developing pretty well, he's getting better, and I think more than anything else, he needs more weapons. But when you have a suspect offensive line that needs to be rebuilt, that's got to be a focal point. So I give him credit for that. And then, of course, they went and got Denzel Mims from Baylor. He's a guy that makes the hard catches, and that I think that's important nowadays because, you know, nowadays these corners are getting a lot more adept. They're catching on more, and you know, with the speed of the game, the way it's increasing every year, you know, you're not going to be wide open every time. You see it happen, but it's not. It's rare these days. So when you got a guy that can make those catches contested in the most difficult spots, I think that helps greatly for a young quarterback going into his third year now that needs something. They're not done. I don't think they're done. They need another player, another number one receiver to get going there. They need that. But can't argue with some of these picks here. And then, you know, Bryce Hall, I thought Bryce Hall was a top 5 corner. Not top 5 pick, but top 5 corner in the draft. And the fact that he lasted all the way to day 3 was shocking. I know there was some concerns about his injuries and stuff like that, but I mean, on his best day, that guy can run with some of the best receivers. So I was shocked that he dropped that far, but just scooped him up. Thank you, Lord. I need that. But that's for my guys that's my teams that did well in the draft. Now I'm gonna go to the teams that wet the bed. I thought could have done better or made the wrong moves. And this list is a lot shorter. But right at the top, I'm gonna go with the Saints. My man Josh ain't gonna be happy about that, but I'm sorry, brother. It's true. They didn't have a lot to work with over years. Like it's about, you know, you got 4 picks, not much to work with there. But Zach Bond out of Wisconsin, he's a solid pass rusher, but a lot of what New Orleans does on defense requires, you know, sitting back a few linebackers on passing downs and everything like that. So, you know, occasionally they'll throw in a blitz or two in there, and I think that will be helpful for him. But if they can't really fit him into the defense, then it's not going to work too well. It's a good pick. It's just not sure how it's going to work out with the defense there. Then you got Cesar Ruiz, who was one of the top linemen in the draft. He was playing center in Michigan. But now we don't know what he's going to play. A lot of movement is on the line there. You got, you know, Andreas Pete is going to be moving around, or you're not sure where he's going to be next year on the line there. You know, the right guard, I don't know what's going on with him either. But, you know, it just wasn't much to work with. I guess they got the best that they could with those 4 picks. But, I mean, that's more, they did more drafting for the future, it looked like. And when you got a Drew Brees that is on his last legs, not physically, but, you know, in terms of his longevity in the league, you got a guy there that has broken every record, but it's the end, you know? You don't know how next season could very well could be his last. You want to contend for a Super Bowl. You want to get, yeah, they have one together already back in 2009. This is over a decade ago. But you have enough talent that you can say, okay, we can make a push for this. No question. So at the end of the day, that's what you should be doing. That's what you should be focusing on. And I think that these picks were more so to say, well, we're going to work this out in the future. We'll get something done here later down the line. But other team outside of them, outside of the Saints, also the Houston Texans. Now, I'm going to say this as kindly as I can because I want to be fair here. Bill O'Brien is not a top-notch executive. And that's putting it lightly. He's not a top-notch. He's not even a great executive. He's not a bad coach because the Houston Texans have made the playoffs the majority of the time he's been the coach. But in terms of making personnel decisions, he does not make good decisions at all. It just doesn't. The fact that DeAndre Hopkins is no longer with the team and you do not have a first round pick as a result, like that's the part that really sets this off, because it's one thing if you trade DeAndre Hopkins and now you're looking for his replacement, but you traded him away and you didn't get a first round pick. That is a dereliction of duty. So they didn't have a first round pick as a result of that trade. Then you get to the second round. They took Ross Blacklock out of TCU. He's up front. He's a D tackle. He's good in short areas. He's quick, but he's not built on, with power or anything like that. And lost DJ Reader, who was kind of the anchor in the defensive line that really runs through people. But this guy, he could be a good fit, but when you got a JJ Watt on the end there, that's coming with speed. You want a guy in the middle that's kind of the rock. No, not the rock, but a rock. And I don't think he fits that criteria ultimately. But again, this is what I mean. He's not. Bill O'Brien makes decisions with his head, with emotion. He doesn't make smart football decisions, and that's going to cost the Houston Texans. I don't think they'll make the playoffs next season. I really don't. It's hurting Deshaun Watson to not have DeAndre Hopkins out there. Yeah, he still has Will Fuller, and they went out and traded for Brandon Cooks. That's all fine and dandy. Those receivers are great. They're not DeAndre Hopkins, and they don't have the same chemistry. Well, Will Fuller does, but not Brandon Cooks. Don't have the same chemistry that him and DeAndre had. And, that was a sense of security that he could just toss it up and know that DeAndre would catch it. Now it's not there anymore. That's going to hamper DeAndre. And I think after next season, I'm real curious to know what the relationship is like between Deshaun and Bill O'Brien. Because after next season, I think we're going to find out a lot about it in terms of some of these decisions that he's been making. So, yeah, they're going to miss the playoffs. If I didn't mention this already, I think the Saints are going to miss the playoffs. I think the Saints might make the playoffs. That's something I'm thinking might. I won't guarantee it because we haven't seen Tom Brady in his new uniform yet, and Gronkowski, so we don't know yet. Also, the Falcons, with their new big three, Matt Ryan, with Todd Gurley and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, we haven't seen any of those guys play yet. So I'm going to say maybe the Saints make the playoffs. But the Texans are going to miss it, without a doubt. I'm calling it right now. I think the Colts get back into the swing of things, and I think obviously Tennessee is gonna be a front runner, but Tennessee, Indy, Texans are gonna fall behind them. I believe that. And the final team I put on this list, I think, has been one of the biggest talks out of the draft here, and that's the Green Bay Packers, because they I don't know. I don't know how exactly to put this into proper words, but in a sense, they have brought up some questions about where they stand when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. Now, Matt LaFleur, the head coach, says he is quite a fan of Aaron Rodgers. He appreciates him. Um, he is not looking past him. And I believe management echoes that sentiment to a T. Problem is, you traded up in the first round to number 26, and you drafted Jordan Love, one of the top quarterbacks on the board. So let me get this straight. Aaron Rodgers is 36. Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown digit interceptions since they won the Super Bowl in 2010, 10 years ago. Aaron Rodgers had your team within one game of a Super Bowl last season. So why is Aaron Rodgers looking at the draft and seeing a first round go by and not a single weapon is given to him to help increase those chances of going back to the Super Bowl next year? Instead, you went ahead and drafted his successor, which, let's be honest, that's really what this is. It's a succession plan. You're going out and you're taking a guy who you're looking towards in the future, who's gonna be your franchise guy. Now, I'll give him credit. I think Aaron Rodgers will be a better leader, a better mentor to Jordan Love than Brett Favre was to him, because obviously Brett Favre wasn't about Aaron Rodgers coming in there, and he wasn't interested in doing anything to help this guy because he knows eventually he's going to take my job. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a little bit better than that. He just seems like a more of a team guy, but it's still a problem because you didn't take any receivers outside of that. You didn't draft any. You drafted A.J. Dillon out of Florida State, Boston College at running back. Drafted one tight end and three linemen. The last two picks were defensive players. This is a lot like New Orleans. It was building for the future. And that's not the message that you want to send to your quarterback, who is talent-wise probably the best in the league. And again, had your team knocking on the door of a Super Bowl. This is about winning now. If you're looking into this draft, this should have been about re-up, focusing on the re-up, and getting back into contention to go back to a Super Bowl. But instead, you said, let me get my hands on this guy who could lead this team in the future. Like Jordan Love, they said that Matt LaFleur was not willing to miss out on Jordan Love. So that means that he's been watching Jordan Love for a while, which means he's been taking his eye off of Aaron Rodgers to do so. Now, again, they say that the relationship between the two of them is solid and they're cool, but I highly doubt that Aaron Rodgers don't have a problem with them going out and saying, well, you know what? We like Jordan Love enough that we're going to trade up to number 26 to get him. If you're going to trade up for something, you trade up for a receiver. You trade up for Justin Jefferson. You trade up for a CeeDee Lamb or, Jalen Reagor, even though he's a little bit of an undersized guy and he's not, the kind of receiver that Aaron Rodgers would work with, but still, it helps, and this did not send the right message at all. And I think it's going to cost the Packers because you got Aaron Rodgers out there on an island. He has Devontae Adams. That's great. But what else you got us outside of that? Alex Jones, emerged as, a solid, or Aaron Jones, emerged as a top running back last season. He had a great season, but they can't do it alone. And that they let Aaron Rodgers down, man. So I think this is gonna be the most daring prediction I make on his show right now. I think the Packers are gonna miss the playoffs next year. I'm calling it right now because management failed him. They really did. Curtis, what's going on, bro? I'm in. Yeah, I think the Packers missed the boat this time because management really, really dropped the ball this time. Now, real quick, I got one honorable mention for my disappointing teams, and that's Jacksonville because they had 12 selections and I don't think even half of them are going to be helpful next season. You got your C.J. Henderson out of Florida and Levon Chason and Laviska. I can't say these names for the life of me, man. These are crazy. Laviska Chenault Jr. These are solid playmakers. The first couple picks, those are guys that are going to contribute right away. But the rest of them, bruh, this is why you don't need that many picks. Because honestly, like out of these picks, I think, like I said, outside of the three I just mentioned, I think maybe two more are going to contribute in a big way next season. I don't see them doing anything of note. They're not going to compete for the division title. It was too much, too soon that you didn't need to do. So it's another year where I think Jacksonville's just gonna let some people down. But what else is new? We're used to it. Now, sticking with football, it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a little while, and it is this. If you've been living under a rock, then you don't know about this. But Tom Brady's not playing for the Patriots anymore. I just mentioned it earlier. He's playing for a new team. Him and Bill Belichick have split after 20 years. Tom Brady will be playing in Tampa Bay for the Bucs. And Rob Gronkowski came out of retirement to join him. And I think it's been weighing on me to kind of go into detail about it. Because if you listen to me for a while, I did a show before this, but I actually went in detail about a potential breakup. I predicted it 2 years earlier, and it has come, and now I'm just going to elaborate on it with a few things I've learned along the way and read up on, but just to kind of understand it. This breakup was something that could not have been prevented. And I'm going to tell you why. The dynamic between Brady and Belichick, this is going to sound a little kooky, but just bear with me here. The dynamic between Belichick and Brady and the split is that of a disgruntled lover leaving their relationship. Here's why. I'm telling you, it sounds kooky, but follow me here. Tom Brady is universally recognized as the greatest of all time. Point blank, period. Let's just call it what it is. I can say that now. He's not a Patriot no more. I can say it honestly. He is the greatest of all time. But if you're Bill Belichick, and if you've watched Bill Belichick in 20 years, and how he has been with Tom Brady, you couldn't really tell that he knew Tom Brady was the GOAT. Why? Because he treated him like everyone else. Now, to be fair, Tom Brady isn't the type to be cocky and look for special treatment or anything like that. He's not an overzealous type of guy. He doesn't want the attention to be on him. He's a team-first guy, no question. But there comes a time where you say, okay, at some point I should get some acknowledgement for what I've done. Tom Brady has given his all and nothing less to this team. But for some reason, and this is how Bill Belichick is, but he doesn't get nearly any kind of praise for what he's done. The man has won you 6 championships. He's taken you to 9 Super Bowls. You would think at some point in time you give the kind of praise that deserves to someone that we're talking about as the greatest of all time. Not Bill Belichick. Not while he's your coach. Not at all. And that's where I create this analogy of it's like a disgruntled lover. Imagine you're in a relationship and you're doing everything imaginable for your significant other. You just going above and beyond. No question, you are the best thing that ever could have happened to this person. But they do not give you an ounce of praise. They just give you the monotone, oh, that's good. Good job. That's what Brady got. The man set the record in 2007 for passing touchdown. It has since been eclipsed now by Peyton Manning. But in 2007, no one had ever thrown for 50 touchdowns. Tom Brady did it when he had Randy Moss and Wes Welker in the crew. And nothing. You wouldn't have known it because Belichick just gave his monotone. Good job, 12. Good job. That's it. You know, it's the way Belichick is, and considering his resume, you can't exactly knock it. But this thing he has with just everyone is on the same playing field, and there's no one who's exempt from his, I guess we'll say, his ire from time to time. It rubs people the wrong way eventually. You got to deal with it. This is the price you have to pay in New England if you want to be a champion. You got to accept Bill Belichick for who he is. But there comes a time where it gets exhausting. And it's not just Tom. I'll give you another example. I got some good notes today. Teddy Bruschi was a linebacker for the Patriots for the first 9 years of Belichick's tenure, from 2000 to 2009. Or, I'm sorry, 2008. Now, back in 2007, the year I was mentioning before, they were undefeated, 12-0. They had just played a game against the Ravens, and this is a story that Teddy Bruschi told. After that game, they're in the locker room, they're celebrating. Bill Belichick comes into the locker room and addresses him and Junior Seau in front of the entire team. And this is a quote. He says, Teddy and Seau, to two of them, he says, "How long have you two been in the league combined? For 50 years? Now let's look at this. Look at this read you just made. Watch this read again. They took the wrong step on a read at the linebacker depth. They took one wrong step. Now it wasn't a costly mistake, and matter of fact, it didn't really make much of a difference. But he saw that they made the mistake, and he lashed the two of them. Mind you, Junior Seau, he's, God rest his soul, he's not with us anymore, but him and Teddy Bruschi were two of the greatest defensive players of their era. This team was undefeated, far and away the favorite to win the Super Bowl, and they had just won yet another game. It was a close game. They won it 27-24. But here comes Belichick, and he is tearing into them in front of the entire team. And these are leaders on the team. Two of the greatest, like I said, two of the best players of their era, and leaders on this football team. And Teddy Bruschi is letting them have it after a win. Again, this is who Belichick is. That's the type of coach he is. And again, it's the price that you have to pay if you want to be part of this greatness. But it's just things like that after a while, it just rubs you the wrong way. It just goes too deep. And now, getting back to Brady here, there's a couple things. And it's not just the praise. It's a lot of issues, and I detailed this in my paper years ago. You go back to 2016, the Deflategate scandal came up. And as soon as the media circus swarmed around New England to try and get to the bottom of this, because obviously, when there's a controversy or something about cheating involved and the Patriots are tied to it, they're coming after you. So Brady was kind of put on the forefront of this story because Belichick absolved any kind of knowledge of the situation at all. Like, he didn't say he knew anything. He was, focusing on being the coach. So it's just, in a sense, it was kind of left out for him to kind of shoulder the blame of it. He had to go talk in front of the press and say, well, this wasn't something that was intentional, and this is how he likes the footballs to be and everything like that. He felt like he was left hung out and dry. And when you have given your all and supported this franchise and been there for them no matter what, that's not the kind of look you want to give. So That's one thing. Second thing was his trainer, Alex Guerrero, that helped him form the TB12 sports movement and nutrition. I mentioned this in my paper too. You know, one of the biggest things that caused another rift between him and Belichick was the fact that, you know, he was not allowing Alex Guerrero access anymore. He was pushing it off because, for whatever reason, he just didn't want him around the team. He was pushing back against it. He felt like, there was some concessions being made for him that he just wasn't going to have. That was an issue for Tom. And it also contributed a lot to the controversy around Deflategate, too. Then the other thing is a lot of contract issues between the two of them. Brady wanted to retire a Patriot. He did not want to be anywhere else. His plan was not to be in Tampa Bay right now. His plan was to retire a Patriot, put his jersey up there in the rafters in Foxborough. But because Belichick wasn't committing to more than a year throughout, there was more disputes. He wouldn't get a long-term deal. Tom Brady does not want money. The man has 6 titles. He is not looking to be rich. He wants more titles, plain and simple. That's really all this boils down to. So, he is, simply put, probably the best team player in football right now. There was so many times where he was willing to cut off numbers off of his contract so that the Patriots could go out and get more playmakers. He's team first. But he wanted a long-term deal so that it was just a sense of, commitment. He just wanted something to show that, you want me here. And he wasn't getting that from Belichick. We all know Bob Kraft loves him like a son. That's his child. But Belichick said, everybody's got a date. Everybody's got a time. And he drafted his successor in 2014, Jimmy G. That never sat well with Brady. He wasn't with that because now you're telling me that there's a clock on. And I'm telling you I want to play into my mid-40s. So the fact that you're bringing this guy in here and making this endorsement in him as though, well, this is the guy I want long-term when Brady's done. No, I never said I was done. So he goes around Belichick, took Bob Kraft to get Jimmy shipped out to San Francisco. And I said it years ago. That was never going to sit well with him. That was going to cause a problem, and Belichick was going to push back against that. And I said it at almost 2 years ago in next month. I said it. And it came to pass. Because the following season, in 2018, who did Tom Brady have to throw to? Let's see. He had Philip Dorsett, Cordero Patterson, guys like Malcolm Mitchell, Jacoby Myers. What are you supposed to do with that? What are you supposed to do with those weapons? I told y'all that Belichick was going to push back against it because of what Brady was doing. It's not that he didn't care about Brady. It was just he brought Brady so much further back down to earth than he deserved to be. And because of that, it was just constantly, a back and forth, just traction between the two of them. So, the combination of all those things, I said it before. Somebody was gonna leave. It was either gonna be Bill or it was gonna be Tom. And so, after last season, the way it ended so disappointingly, it was just a matter of time. So now Tom's gone. He left. He's in New England. The bad breakup happened. And this goes to tell you how much guys really take this into stock because Rob Gronkowski was retired. He had, mentioned how the strain of the game, really took a toll on his body, mentally, physically, emotionally. He was done. And now all of a sudden, he's unretired and he's joining Tom with the Buccaneers now. But he said also in an interview that, New England's not the easiest place to play. I wonder why. So, in a sense, this pressure that you have from a Belichick on all of his players that he expects everything and then some from you, and you got to deal with him. Plain and simple. You're not going to be special. You're not going to be a standout. You're not going to be anything above what I say you are. It's his way or the highway. And some guys can handle that, some guys don't. Like I said, the price you got to pay if you want to be great with that team. So, now it's done. And like I said, I called it 2 years ago. I actually thought that it would be both. I thought Belichick and Brady would leave. But, when it's a power struggle, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. And I really, truthfully, I don't see a scenario where Belichick loses. I think, Brady might be great with Tampa. I won't say surely he will. We haven't seen him. He definitely has upgrades at weapons. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. You got Gronk back. You got O.J. Howard. So he definitely will have a shot. But one thing that's proven tried and true is Belichick and his system. Because when Tom Brady went down in 2008, Matt Castle, who nobody had ever heard of, won 11 games. So, truthfully, he doesn't have a lot to work with this season, but I don't see a scenario where he loses at the end of the day. Because when you talk about who's the brains of the operation, it's Belichick. Because everyone talks about how, who would Belichick be without Brady, but who chose Brady? Because unless you watch Michigan, then who really knew about Tom Brady? He wasn't a standout. He won some games, yeah. He looked good for who he was, but he went 199 in the draft. So if Belichick doesn't pick him, who is Tom Brady? That's where that ends for me. So I take. Yeah, I think OJ is coming back, bro. It wouldn't make sense. I would want to trade if I were him, but yeah, I think that he'll be back. I think if nothing else, OJ Howard should go. He can get something for him. Man, listen. Listen. At the end of the day, he still had Moss, he still had Welker, he still had the squad. He's gotta throw to those guys at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And look at the Steelers back in the day and the Ravens. You can't run on them teams back then in 2008. Come on, man. But nah, it was unavoidable. It was gonna happen. It happened. That's that. It's a wrap. So I'll get more into that one of these days, but I've already submitted my argument. I knew this was coming, and that's that. Plain and simple. It's my man Josh on here with me right now. Man, listen, let me tell you something. That draft did not do y'all any favors. I'm just gonna tell you right now, brother, because you got Jameis is Drew's backup right now. You still got Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and everything like that. But with 4 picks and none of them are really gonna do much except like maybe Ruiz and Bond, I don't expect much. You know what I'm saying? Y'all should still be front runners in the division, but you never know. You know what I'm saying? Tampa could be solid because Bruce Arians is the man already. He don't even need the coach, because Brady know what he doing. Truth be told. Anywho, I gotta move along. This is going over an hour. I still gotta get to Last Dance real quick. Anywho, if you've been watching, ESPN's been airing this 10-part documentary series on the 90s Bulls, Jordan, Pippen, and Dennis Rodman, called The Last Dance. Episodes 3 and 4 aired on Sunday night, and they focused primarily on Dennis Rodman and a little bit on Phil Jackson too. But big takeaways here from me on this from the start, that Dennis Rodman was a quiet guy, a cool guy, calm guy when he was coming out of college, and when he went to Detroit, it kind of just turned everything around, because that aura of being with the Pistons, with Detroit back in the day, that really kind of shaped everyone, because the Pistons were some thugs back in the day. I mean that as nicely as I can possibly can. They did not play. They hurt people, man, and that's what they were talking about. The Pistons beat the hell out of Jordan, him and his team every single year. He went back to back in the playoffs, beat them, and went to a championship. So, that was one of the main things they were talking about there with Rodman and how he started to change in his time from college into the pros and the time with the Pistons. But this was something I never knew. I really, really never knew this. Jordan never started training, like hitting the weights room, until the Pistons beat him up. I never knew that because, yeah, Jordan was skinny, but you could see some muscle on the guy. And then you think, with as much as he would drive and all of that athleticism that you saw out of him, the fact that this dude never weight trained until he ran into the Pistons, that was shocking to me. So you mean to tell me that the dude could drop 63 back in the mid 80s and he never was hitting the gym? so he runs into the Pistons. The Pistons start getting up, throwing elbows and knocking people down. And now he says, let's start throwing some weights on. Let's hit the benches and stuff like that. Man, that's scary. That's real scary. For real, for real. But, that. And of course, we got to talk about the handshake situation. I think, no question, the bad blood is still alive and well because, Detroit to have been beaten up on the Bulls year after year, en route to championships, and then to finally lose to Jordan and the Bulls, I think it was a little bit much for them, mentally. I think when you finally lose dominance over them, that it's hard to process. So it's just, they said, nah, forget it. We just leaving the court. Isaiah Thomas talks about how the culture was back then: when you lose, you leave. That's it. But at the same time, Jordan never did that. He was talking to everybody when he lost, and he felt he was competitive as anybody else. He used to fight his brother when they lost games of pickup before he even made it to college. So it's not a competitive thing, but at the end of the day, it just, I don't know. It's just one of them things. When you don't like each other in your sport, then it's just, you ain't gonna get around that. Plain and simple. And when you got a team that had as much attitude as the Pistons did, truthfully, it's not shocking to me. It's really not. I mean, I don't criticize it truthfully. I mean, I love it because that's just more bad blood to that's what creates more moments like that. That was what creates a better game, a better moment, a better emotion, because now when you're fueled by that, like, oh, they didn't want to shake our hand. Okay, we're going to see them again. And it's going to be more personal. So it just keeps going and going. So I got nothing wrong with that. But when that finally happened, they moved on and they went to go play the Lakers with Magic Johnson. That's the dream matchup. That was something that, generations got to see. We didn't really get to see it. We was babies, but, that was that once in a lifetime matchup. Well, yeah, of course he was supposed to. He's saying Zeke was, being the leader of the team. He was supposed to correct Bill for that. Look, at the end of the day, I don't take nobody's word for it, because Mike was saying that, at his core, Isaiah's an asshole, and Isaiah's saying that, it was just the culture. It was just the way that things go. When you lost, you just leave the court. I can't take nobody's word for it at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? For me, I like to think that it was just one of those oversights that he just figured, you know what? we lost. I'm not feeling it right now. Let's just go. But you never know. If Bill, first of all, you see the size of Bill. A dude that size come over your shoulder and say, "We ain't shaking hands. We ain't shaking hands." Because that means if I go shake his hand when he told me not to, we might fight in the locker room. That's how I see it. So I don't know. As a leader, you're right though. As a leader, he should have take some accountability for that. At the end of the day, I wouldn't question that whatsoever. But that was how it shook out at the end of the day, and it's unfortunate, but these things they happen. It goes down, and it goes to show that not everybody is not everybody that stands out is the leader. Put it that way. Just because they make the plays and they're the guy everyone's talking about doesn't mean that they possess that leadership quality. So it happens, man. The other thing too that I noticed a lot, and it's an ongoing theme. You know what I'm saying? Is that Jordan had to navigate the media in ways that you don't see nowadays. I mean, with all the different topics, from the very beginning, they show how they're always on him about what happens after '98 because Jerry Krause and splitting the team up and rebuilding, always hounding Michael about that decision. Well, what are you gonna do? And you say you only want to play with Phil Jackson. There's that thing. Before they even won the championship, he was all over him about his focus and where his head's at and wanting to keep playing. When he got hurt, late '80s, and he wanted to come back quickly, but they didn't want to rest him. He was hell bent on getting back on the court, but they wanted to say, "Hey, listen, you're our franchise. You got to take it easy." They're all over him about that. When Scotty was having his issues and he was away from the team, and they didn't want to commit to him and talking about trading him, potential retirement. It's just all these things together. I mean, they would bear down on Jordan, and I gotta give him credit. The consummate professional when it came to that stuff, because man, when you think about all of these things that was going on when you're Jordan alone, when you are the franchise of the team, that the spotlight's always going to be on you. But when you have all these things going on with Dennis Rodman going crazy, going out to Vegas, I mean, that in itself, that was a highlight of that episode for me. But when you have that going on, Scotty, and just everything going on, it had to be tough navigating the team. When the media comes hounding you, I'll give you that. Jerry Krause does deserve all the credit in the world. However, he did feel himself a little bit much. I will say that. At the end of the day, yes, you need an architect to put this team together. You need somebody that's smart enough to say, okay, yeah, we need this. That's going to add, that's going to add to the team. You definitely need that. But I will say Krause was feeling himself a little too much, and that was a problem. You know what I'm saying? And, I think the media really kind of twisted his words a lot. I think that was a problem too, because I don't think he would be insensitive enough to say that freaking organization wins games over the team. But that's what happens. And shout out to him for picking up Rodman. You know what I'm saying? You took all this stuff was going on. I don't know. And this was today's NBA. None of this would be going on, man. None of this. I mean, Rodman. I give him credit, Rodman, because at the end of the day, with all that he would do, for him to come back, and they told the story that he came back and was still busting everybody in practice and outrunning everybody. That just tells you the dude was dialed in. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to blow off steam, you blow off steam. But I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, he did too. Yeah, who's on Monday Nitro? I forgot about that. The NWO, yeah, Rodman was wild, man. That is crazy, no doubt. It still wouldn't fly today. It only could have happened in the '90s, but yeah, man, crazy stuff. But the tail end of that episode, they're talking about Phil Jackson. Um, Phil Jackson got some real that that is some real deep mentality that man has. I mean, they talk about him growing up and being around a lot of Native American people and learning their culture, their tribe, and their beliefs and everything. And I mean, it I think his childhood combined with growing up led to this spirituality that he developed over time. And he got into playing. He played for the Knicks, of course. They won a championship back in the days when my mama's mama wasn't around yet. Um, and then he started coaching. He went to go coach in Puerto Rico, where they was some scrappy ones over there. I didn't know that. I didn't know this little story that they mentioned too. That Phil Jackson was a little wild back in the day. They said he took acid and was on a little bit of a trip at one point. One of his friends told the story. that's that's kind of crazy. So he had his mind expanded in a whole lot of different ways. But yeah, it just I love that story though, the origins of how he kind of created that aura, the Zen master, and he brought a lot of that mentality into coaching. And when they saw when he took over with the Bulls, he kind of had this cultural way about how he was approaching practice and a lot of things that they would do, man. Like that, that's crazy because there's a lot of inner peace you gotta have as a player when you're going, in those throes of professional sports. It's hard knocks, and when you mentally focus, that creates a better balance when you're in there. But the last part was, of course, the triangle, the story behind that. They talked about how the coach would when Phil was still an assistant, one of the coaches would talk about the triangle so much, how it creates so many opportunities on the court. And once you had Jordan, you know, elevated to the slot of that feature guy, that it just made so much sense. And it talks about over time, he showed Jordan that, if you can utilize the triangle, you don't have to have the ball in your hands all the time. You can rely on your teammates to, close out some crucial moments. It doesn't always have to be on you. And Jordan initially wasn't about that. It wasn't that he wasn't confident in the team. He just knew that if I got the ball, I'm going to make it happen. But the implementation of the triangle meant that now, okay, you got somebody you can rely on. You don't have to show this burden now. And it took a while for them to mesh it together. But once they did, it was like, oh, okay, cool. And as a leader, he said, all right, I'm going to get these guys involved. I'm going to make them better. And you saw a lot. He was really tough on his teammates because he expected the best out of them. So once he transitioned into that role and they got the triangle going, everything just started going like clockwork. It's good stuff, man. I love this series, man. I can't wait for the rest. It's already flying through. We're already almost halfway through the series. 5 and 6 are coming this next Sunday. They're going to be talking about the Dream Team, Team USA with Magic and Bird and Jordan. That's going to be crazy. So y'all tune into that when that comes out next Sunday. Now, before I sign off here, I got one last order of business. And I'm going to run through this really quick because, man, I'm almost at an hour and a half. But UFC 249 will be going down as scheduled on May 9th. They will be, I need to get the location. It's in Florida. They found a spot down there where they will sanction it. It's headlined by Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje in a interim lightweight championship fight. Um, the co-main is going to be Henry Cejudo and Dominic Cruz. This is going to be his first fight in years. Um, the plan was to have Cejudo and Aldo, but obviously with travel restrictions and everything that's going on, it's not going to happen. It was supposed to go down in Brazil, but you know, things happen. This is where we're at. Cruz is going to step in. He's going to fight him for the title. Um, look forward to that. Then, of course, you got Francis Ngannou and Yair Rosenstreich. They're two guys that are heavy hitters and they're scary as hell. And it's going to be like Godzilla and King Kong. I can't wait for that. Jeremy Stevens and Calvin Cater. Those are two. That's a potential fight of the night right there because, Calvin Cater, if he hits you, you're going to drop. And Jeremy Stevens is all about war. He loves to swing. He loves to get in the dogfight. So I look forward to that.